how to conduct digital transformation projects. Hi everyone, my name is Johannes Niari. I'm a strategy consultant, and on this channel, I want to help you to learn necessary skills that you need in your first years in consulting. And today, I want to talk about how to conduct digital transformation projects. Digital transformation was a huge topic in the 2010s, and basically every company back then wanted to implement a new strategy to become more digital. And this, led to a kind of boom in the consulting industry. And, this was really one of the most sold projects that you really develop those digital strategies and digital transformation strategies with the companies together. Well, nowadays, so it's 2022, there are other challenges as well. So sustainability, of course, is a huge topic, but also we have, supply chain optimization due to COVID, then, generating cash, also, preparing for the upcoming recession, and restructuring, stuff like that, of course, is very hot at the moment as well. But digital transformation is still a very, very important part for the strategy of each company, and that's why I want to talk today a little bit about how you can do that, what some of my personal learnings are from those projects, and how you can do your own projects. Back then, when I learned about digital transformation, of course, I applied all the frameworks. I was also stuffed on digital transformation projects in my own firm or in the firm I'm working for. But I also read a lot about digital transformation. And one book that I really liked was Leading Digital by three gentlemen, or written by three gentlemen, George Westerman, Didier Bonnet, and Andrew McAfee. And they are from the MIT and Capgemini. And what I really like about this book is that they propose a very simple but comprehensive framework that helps you to structure digital transformation strategies. So what I want to do today is to lead through this framework and to use this framework, and then also to add my own experiences and to talk a little bit about my learnings that I had in digital transformation projects. So that being said, let's jump directly into it. And this is the framework from the book, and there are mainly four parts we will talk about. It's first framing the digital challenge. And what you do here is basically to answer the question, why are we doing that? So to think about, okay, what are the goals? What do we want to achieve in general? The next part is to focus your investments. And basically, this is the what. Okay, so you decide, okay, what kind of measures you want to take, what kind of investments you want to make, and what is the general roadmap. After that, you say, okay, you want to mobilize the organization, and this is basically the how. Okay, so how do you get your initiatives on the road? How can you make your organization ready to implement digital transformation? And last but not least, we have sustaining the digital transition, and this is basically the long-term implementation that you have for your digital strategy. So let's go through it step by step. And as I said, I first want to talk about the key question that you should ask yourself, then some key points to consider, and then add some of my personal experiences. So let's jump into the first bucket, framing the digital challenge. And here the first part is that you build awareness. So what is the key question? The key question is, do top leaders in your organization understand the potential threats and opportunities from digital technologies and the need for transformation? What are some key points that you should consider here in this phase? So first of all, you need to put digital transformation at the top of your agenda. You need to understand the scale of digital impact. You need to make the awareness process experiential, and you need to build a coalition of believers. So my experience with that is that digital transformation really has to be a top strategic priority. So if the top management does not buy in digital transformation, then it's almost impossible to implement it. And luckily nowadays, most top management, or most people in top management, really see the need for digital transformation. But back then, and still sometimes today, digital transformation is a kind of decentralized topic, or driven by the IT department or something like that. But it really has to be a top priority for the management. And it's also really hard to keep up with all of the developments. And very often what I see in companies is that digitization is still a kind of buzzword, and also those technologies, like robotics, like RPA, like blockchain, like AI, they're more like buzzwords and rather than concrete initiatives and actions. So this is the first part. I think it's also very important to identify your ambassadors, which means basically that you define, okay, who are the key people in the company who can push digital transformation, because of course it has to be a priority by the top management, but you need the people in the organization who help you to implement. Then the next step is that you know your starting point. And the key question here is, how mature are your digital competencies, and which current strategic asset will help you to excel? Have you digitally changed your current business model? So what you should do is basically the following: assess your digital maturity, chart your transformation journey, assess your strategic assets, and challenge your own business model. And my experience at that stage is that you typically start, or that it's good if you start transformation projects with a digital maturity assessment. So this means that you have a neutral view on certain aspects of digital transformation and really try to figure out, okay, where are we standing, where are different departments standing, how are we doing in different areas. And this neutral point of view really helps, to create awareness, to identify pain points as well. And the way how you do it is that you typically perform a study, very often performed by a consultancy, to get a kind of neutral view on the situation. The next step in the first phase is that you craft a vision and also align the team. And the key question here is, have you aligned your team leadership around a vision of the company's digital future? And some key points that you should do is that you craft your transformation vision and align your top team. And since digital transformation is such a fuzzy word, and since this has to be top priority, it's very important that the top management has an aligned vision. Important word is aligned vision, about the digital transformation story that you want to tell, and about the future that you want to create. So this means that as a top management, you should be aware that you have a compelling vision, that you also, try to make it as attractive as possible, and, create this kind of, future, this kind of guideline, this kind of, lighthouse that people want to achieve or want to follow, and that you really highlight, the benefits for everyone in the company of your digital transformation story. And as I said, it's important that the top management is aligned, because the worst thing that you can have is if you have some disputes within the top management about the digital journey that you want to do. So here it's very important, because we have so many parts and so many aspects, or parts of the organization who have to support a digital journey, that top management really has to be aligned. So let's jump to the next bucket, and the next bucket is that you focus your investments. And here the first point is that you translate your vision into action. And the key question that you should ask yourself is, have you converted your digital vision into strategic goals? Have you translated your digital transformation priorities into a roadmap of initial activities? So basically what you need to do is that you need to define what good looks like. So you need to have a clear goal setting, and also that you build a roadmap of your digital journey. And the key thing is, and this is really where most companies struggle, is that you transform or translate this high level vision that you just created in phase number one into concrete measures. And here you should be as precise as possible. Typically, what worked best for me was that you have this long-term vision, and then that you have very concrete short-term measures, and then some less concrete ideas for the midterm and the long term. But it's very important to translate this vision into concrete actionables that you can do now, and that the organization can start as fast as possible. Then the next question here is, or the next part is, that you build your governance. And the question that you should ask is, have you designed governance mechanisms to steer your transformation in the right direction? And this basically means, if you have the structures, if you have, the governance that helps you to sustainably implement digital transformation. So you have to build the right governance. You have to decide what you need to coordinate and what you need to share. You have to choose mechanisms that help you to meet your own goals that you set. And also you have to plan to evolve your governance model. And the thing is that you need a kind of instance within your organization that takes on the responsibility to push the digital transformation. And there are many different models that you can do. You can hire a CDO, a chief digital officer, or make the CTO, this chief technology officer, responsible. You also can have a project set up. This is often the case at the beginning of such projects, that the consultancy does the project tracking. But you also could set up interdisciplinary teams or digital units or many other things. But the important thing is that you need a governance model. You need something, you need a structure, you need responsibilities to really take care of the digital transformation. So it's important to stay agile. Also over the time you can evolve your governance model. So the governance model that you have at the beginning, let's say a project setup, isn't the governance model that you want to have after 2 or 3 years, for example. But it's very important that you think about that and create this structure. The next part is that you fund the transformation. And again, the key question here is, have you designed a balanced portfolio of digital investments? Have you worked out the funding mechanisms for your transformation? And this is a very important part, because now we are talking about investments, now we're talking about the money. And basically, you need to manage your digital investment portfolio. You need to exploit various funding mechanisms, and you don't have to, or you can let transformation get lost in translation. So what is my experience here? Basically, you can make many investments if we talk about digital transformations, because you can invest in platforms or systems, you can invest in certain tools, process automation, in data, you can invest in key people, you can invest in new units, in new startups. There's so many things that you can do. But my experience, and this is also what studies show, is that most of these investments don't pay out at the end. So now we have some experience, what happened over the past years, and what you see very often is that a lot of money is wasted. Of course, because back then there was a lot of insecurity, you didn't really know how to do that. But nevertheless, if you don't have a balanced portfolio and put all of your eggs into one basket, for example, this can work, but of course is connected with some risks. So it's important to think about what is the budget that you can use to do the digital transformation, and then really think about, okay, what does my portfolio look like? So do I only want to invest in technology? Do I want to invest in people? Do I want to invest in diversification? So this means like new startups or so. So this is a very important question. Of course, you have to find the right approach here. Then let's jump to the next bucket, and this bucket is that you mobilize your organization. The first part is that you signal your ambitions, and the key question that you need to ask yourself is, do people understand why we need to transform, and are they buying in? And some key points that you have to be aware of is that you send signals, that you explain the benefits of digital transformation very early, and that you use all available communication channels. So my experience is that transformation always comes with huge changes, and of course huge challenges. And in most cases, people will be afraid, because one big part of the reason why you want to do a digital transformation is that you cut costs, and people are very afraid that they will lose their jobs, because you will automate everything, and just want to fire people. The thing is that you have to highlight the benefits for the entire companies, because yes, of course, cost efficiency is certainly one aspect of digital transformation, but there are many other aspects as well, like making your business model more sustainable, like building new business models, like creating new units to enter new market fields. So it's not just a cost cutting case, it's a rather, or in most cases, a growth story. And I think it's really important to think about, okay, what kind of concerns do you have in the organization, and to really communicate what your ambitions are and how the organization as a whole will benefit. Because if you don't do that, most people will be afraid of the digital transformation. So, make the step at the beginning that you really put a lot of effort into the communication. The next step is that you earn the right to engage. And the key question here is, do I have the credibility to lead the digital transformation? And some key aspects are: walk the talk, co-create the transformation, identify your digital champions, and identify quick wins. And my experience here is, that you need some credibility as a project team, but especially as a top management. So if you shout out this huge vision for digital transformation, then you need to walk the talk. You need to also participate, and you also need to change your own behavior. What I saw in previous projects was, that sometimes top management, proclaims the huge digital transformation, but that the processes or the behaviors of the top management, still are very, analog. And of course, this doesn't create a kind of credibility. So you have to be the first, who starts, making changes, who also changes the own behavior. Because if you want to do the digital transformation, of course, everyone needs to change, and you first need to start to change your mindset. And it's very important that you kind of, have this role of the leader, that you walk the talk, and this creates credibility. Because if you don't have this, or if you don't create this credibility at the beginning of the project or of your transformation, then people will not follow, and it will be very, very tough to implement it. Then the next step is that you set new behaviors and evolve your culture. And the core question that you need to ask yourself here is, do we have the right culture for digital transformation? And some key points are that you make visible changes to work practices, that you encourage adoption, not deployment, that you learn to fail, and that you institutionalize new work practices. So what is my experience here? There is a saying that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And this is the truth, especially if you have, those transformation projects that simply take some time. And this means that, yes, great digital strategy is fine, but if you don't change really the culture of your company, then it will be very, very hard to implement it. And this is so tough because, you can set up a new digital strategy quite, quickly. You can do that in a couple of weeks. But, really changing the culture, this is so difficult because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of persistence, it takes a lot of effort. So it's really important that you understand the kind of key challenge. And if you want to create a lasting change, that you also, put the culture change, the cultural transformation at one of your as one of your top priorities in order to, master the digital transformation. And it's often, a kind of soft topic, and especially if we talk about investments in new technologies and so on, this is very tangible, and the culture is very difficult to grasp. But nevertheless, it's very important to be aware of that. And then let's go to the last bucket. And the last bucket is that you sustain the digital transition. And the first step here is that you build the foundation skills. What you need to ask yourself is, do you have a plan for a ramp up of digital competence within your organization? Do you have a well-structured digital platform? So do you have a strong IT business relationship? And some key points that you should be aware of is, orchestrate your skills build up, build your digital platform, and develop a close IT business relationship. And my experience is, that you also need to heavily invest in the capabilities of your companies. So this can be skills, of your staff, but this is in most cases also the build up or, the transformation of the IT department. Because very often, the IT department plays a major role in your digital transformation, because they have to implement all the products. They also have to change their thinking because they need to develop a more agile approach. You need probably, certain expertise. You need interdisciplinary teams between the IT, or consisting of, IT people, but also people within the organization. And this is a very important step that you need to take, that you need to be aware of if you start a digital transformation. So really think about, okay, do we have the skill in the organization? The skills that we need, is the IT department prepared to perform the digital transformation? And this is very essential. Then the next step here is that you align incentives and rewards. And the key question that you should ask yourself is, are your incentives, rewards, and recognitions aligned to your transformation objectives? And some things that you can do is that you have to start at the top management, that you smooth your end-to-end processes, that you make sure the rewards are more than financial, and also that you extend reward structures beyond your corporate boundary. So what is my experience here? My experience is, that you need to create incentives to generate the buy-in. This starts, of course, with the top management. And, you have probably already, defined at this stage your vision. You have to break it down into smaller measures and goals. Then it's important, to tie the bonus of key personnel to these goals. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. But you don't only have, this kind of financial instrument. You also have, recognition. You also have, a appreciation as a tool that you can use. So for example, that you highlight important digital projects, in the next firm event, that you use this kind of tools as well to create this kind of incentives. Also, that you create new exciting experiences in this digital path for new key people who want to develop in digital leadership roles. There are many things that you can do, but I think it's very important to incentivize the organization in the right way in order to prepare the long-term implementation. And last but not least, you have measure, monitor, and iterate. And basically, the core question here is: do you have a management process that allows you to measure and monitor the progress of your digital transformation? Do you have enough visibility to adapt your course as needed? Some key points here are managing your strategic scorecard, drive the initiative level business case and related KPI, connect top-down and initiative level measures, and develop an iterative review process. So what this says is basically that you have to create some structures to ensure the long-term implementation. And typically you have this kind of digital transformation project. You have this vision, then you develop the measures, then you set up the right structures, but then the organization at some point needs to implement it by themselves. And the big challenge here is to create or to set up a structure that also ensures a healthy digital transformation in the long run. So that, for example, you set up clear KPIs, that you set up a tracking, to create PMO structures that help to manage the process, and that you also have agile ways of working, that you implement that you set up as I said at the beginning, that you change the culture and also create the instruments that the organization needs in order to conduct this digital transformation in a healthy and sustainable way. So these are the 4 steps for digital transformation. So framing the digital challenge, focusing on investments, mobilizing the organization, sustaining the digital transition. And basically, if you want to learn more about that, then I highly recommend to read that book, because there's everything explained in a lot of detail. And this should give you an idea. Of course, if you're working in a consulting firm, your consulting firm probably has their own frameworks and their own methods. But I think this framework that we just talked about is really a great approach. So a great place to start as well. So I hope this brought value to you. If you want to learn all the consulting skills that you need in your first years in consulting, then please check out my free masterclass here below. And also, if you like this video, then please leave a thumb up. Also subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn more about digital transformation or other types of projects, then also please leave a comment. With that being said, I wish you a wonderful day and hope to talk to you soon. Goodbye, Johannes.